If you're reading this, I want you to know I didn't come out here looking for anything like this. I'm not into ghost stories, cult shit, or those dark side of the internet rabbit holes. I'm just a guy. 29 years old. Apartment in Boston. I work in IT, live with my girlfriend, and I go camping every now and then to clear my head from screens and noise. But right now, I'm writing this with hands that won't stop shaking, trying not to look at the edges of the tent where the ground moves like it's breathing. We came out here as a joke. Me, John, Lily, and Mason. Old friends from college. We thought we'd take one last, epic trip, before Mason moved across the country. Someone, probably John, got the idea from Reddit. A comment in one of those creepy hiking forums. Something about a place not found on maps anymore. A spot deep in the woods of northeastern Arizona, tagged by one user as Forgotten Meadow. A place abandoned by time and by the people who once knew what lived there. Someone had posted, "Don't go there. You'll hear it before you see it. And by then it's too late." Of course, we thought it was bullshit. A troll comment. You see those all the time. But Mason joked about it nonstop, and by the third round of drinks, it became our next destination. Off-grid, off-map, off everything. Just us and the forest. No tourists. No signal. No distractions. We found it too. A flat stretch between cliffs and dense pine. Peaceful. Untouched. No signs, no trails, no trash. It felt honest. Like it didn't care if people came or not. The kind of quiet that hums in your ears after city noise has left your system. We set up camp like usual, pitched the tents, built a fire, cooked up canned chili. We even joked about summoning spirits, laughing like idiots around the flames. It was cold that night, colder than it should have been for September. But nothing weird had happened yet. Nothing that couldn't be explained by altitude and paranoia. It wasn't until I zipped into my sleeping bag and finally tried to close my eyes that I noticed something strange. The ground felt wrong. Not just uncomfortable. It was moving. Not constantly. Just in pulses. Like something big was turning over beneath the earth. I thought it might be a small earthquake at first. Or maybe I was just exhausted. But it wasn't like a tremor. It didn't shake everything. Just a subtle, rhythmic shift, right beneath my back. Like something breathing. Like I'd made camp on the chest of something alive. I lay still for a long time, hoping the feeling would stop. It didn't. And just before I finally fell asleep out of pure mental exhaustion, I swear to you I heard a sound. Not loud. Not even a whisper, really. More like a low murmur. Like distant chanting in a language that didn't belong in any century we knew. I told myself it was the wind. I told myself a lot of things that first night. I didn't tell the others about the ground moving or the whispers. Not that morning. We were still in the high on nature stage of the trip, and I didn't want to be the buzzkill. Mason was already up, poking the fire back to life and boiling instant coffee like a pro. Lily sat on a log brushing her hair, eyes red from sleep but smiling anyway. John was the last one up, still cocooned in his sleeping bag, snoring like someone twice his size. It felt normal. Maybe that's what freaked me out. The contrast. I kept thinking about the vibrations under my spine, that sound I couldn't place. But I shoved it down. Told myself it was just nerves. Overthinking. We weren't exactly sleeping in a Hilton. Still, something felt off. And not in a horror movie way. More like subtle dissonance. Birds flew but didn't sing. Wind moved the trees but made no sound. The forest around us seemed almost muted. Like we were in a photograph of the place instead of the place itself. We had found the meadow by following half-baked coordinates from an archived Reddit comment thread, someone named Ruthless Jeed, who hadn't posted in years. The post was buried under a thread about places scrubbed from federal maps. The kind of thing you read late at night when you're a little too high and want to scare yourself. The user claimed Forgotten Meadow was once part of a native reservation, but had been left off updated maps sometime in the 60s. Supposedly there were rituals done here. Not spiritual healing stuff, darker things. People going missing. Authorities giving excuses. The usual Reddit lore. Of course, it wasn't actually on the reservation anymore, so we weren't trespassing. Just exploring. That's what we told ourselves. The path in had been hard to follow. A dirt road grown over with weeds and thistle. No signs. No tire tracks. GPS glitched out halfway there, so we used a compass, and even that spun for a while before it settled. We only knew we'd arrived because there was an open clearing ringed with jagged rock formations, and the grass in the center was dead flat, like it had been pressed down. No wildlife in sight. No trail markers. It felt untouched. Like the world had forgotten it was there. Lily loved it. She said it felt pure. That it had a hush to it, like a chapel in the woods. John rolled his eyes, but even he admitted it was cool in a kind of lost world way. We took pictures, set up camp, cracked open beers. That first day, we hiked. Made jokes. Pretended we were in some survival show. But I noticed we all kept glancing back toward the meadow, even when we were half a mile out. Like it was pulling at us. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Not because of the cold, or the weird shape of the rocks, or even the low thrum in the ground that had started again. It was the silence. The kind of silence that doesn't exist in nature. No crickets. No wind. No rustling branches or nocturnal calls. Just this, thick, pressing stillness. Then came the whispers again. But this time, they didn't stay in the ground. They rose. From the roots. From the stones. From the very air around me. And I wasn't the only one who heard them. Because Lily woke up screaming. Lily's scream didn't sound like the kind you make when you see a spider or hear a twig snap. It sounded wrong. Like it had been ripped out of her. One long, desperate wail that shook me awake and had all three of us stumbling out of our tents in seconds. She was already outside, barefoot in the freezing grass, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her bones together. Her face was pale, almost blue, and her eyes were locked on the ground like she was watching something crawl under it. "There's something beneath me," she kept saying. "It was moving. It was like it was breathing." Mason tried to calm her down, putting his hoodie over her shoulders and telling her it was probably a mole or something stupid like that. But she wasn't having it. "I wasn't even touching the ground," she said. "My pad was on top of the bag. I felt it through both." John looked at me, and for the first time since we got there, he wasn't joking. "You felt anything?" he asked. I hesitated. Then nodded. "Last night. Like a pulse. I thought maybe I was losing it." We all just stood there in the dark, shivering, listening. The silence had returned, heavy as ever. No wind. No wildlife. Just our breaths and the flickering hiss of the dying fire. And then, softly, so soft I thought I imagined it, we heard it. A faint, low vibration. Not a sound exactly, but a feeling in the soles of our feet. Lily stepped back fast, like the ground had shocked her. She tripped and Mason caught her, but she didn't even notice. She just stared at the earth beneath us like it had betrayed her. We doused the fire and stayed up the rest of the night. No one said it, but none of us wanted to be alone in our tents again. At sunrise, things looked normal again. Bright. Crisp. Birds chirped like nothing had happened. But we were quiet. No jokes. No plans. Just four tired people eating granola bars and watching the shadows move across the rock walls. Then Lily took off her scarf. She said her neck itched. Had all morning. What we saw shut Mason up mid-sentence. Just under her collarbone, etched into the skin like a scar, was a dark, angry mark, half a circle with jagged lines through it, like a broken sun. It wasn't swollen or bleeding, but it was there. Deep. Like it had been burned in. She hadn't felt anything during the night. No pain. No heat. No dream. and none of us had any idea what the symbol meant. I wanted to say it was a rash, or a reaction to her necklace, but the skin around it was smooth, too clean, like something had placed it there on purpose. "Someone fucking with us?" John asked, but his voice didn't sound confident. We searched the area. Found nothing. No footprints but ours. No signs of animals. No gear missing or messed with. Just the meadow. Still. Watching. Listening. We should have left right then. We tried to. We tried to laugh it off. God help us, we did. That morning, Lily sat hunched in a camp chair with her hoodie zipped to her chin, like she wanted to disappear into it. Her eyes were locked on the fire, hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. Mason tried to lighten the mood with dumb jokes, some nonsense about ancient alien pranksters, but no one laughed. Still, none of us wanted to say it out loud. That we were scared. I think we were hoping someone would step forward and say it was a prank. That John had burned the symbol into her with some fancy lighter while she was asleep. That it was all an elaborate joke gone a little too far. But that explanation never came, and the longer we sat there, the more it became obvious. No one knew what the hell was going on. That afternoon, we went back and combed the ground where Lily's tent had been, searching for anything, wires, prints, even weird rocks. All we found was an indent in the dirt. A shallow impression, roughly the shape of a person lying down, but twisted. Not symmetrical. The legs splayed like they'd been dragged. The arms, too long. I crouched to get a better look, and that's when I heard it again. The whispers? Not in my head this time. Not in the ground. This time it was outside. Clear. Close. They were coming from the woods just past the clearing, just beyond the line of shade. A soft, droning murmur that didn't belong to any bird or animal I knew. It sounded like dozens of voices speaking at once, all saying different things, but somehow still in rhythm. I turned to the others to see if they heard it too, but they were staring at Lily. She was frozen. Not scared, entranced. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. She was whispering something under her breath, her mouth moving in time with the voices from the woods. I leaned in and asked her what she was saying. She didn't answer me. But I swear to you, what came out of her mouth wasn't English. The syllables were sharp, guttural. They hit my ears wrong, like sounds that didn't belong in a human throat. My skin went cold. "Lily," Mason said, his voice hard now. "Lily!" She blinked. And just like that, the voices stopped. Gone. Like a switch had been flipped. She looked around, confused, and asked why we were staring at her. She didn't remember a thing. That night, nobody slept. We packed our gear. Decided to leave first thing at dawn. We didn't care about finishing the trip, or exploring further. It was over. But of course, things didn't go that easy. Because the car wouldn't start. We woke before sunrise, long before the birds or the light could pretend it was just another peaceful day in the woods. We packed in silence. No jokes now, no music, just the quiet hum of panic tightening around us. John didn't say it, but I saw the way he kept glancing at the tree line like something was waiting just behind it. Lily refused to look at the meadow at all. She was pale, distant. Still wearing her scarf, like if she covered the mark, it would go away. We made it back to the car just after 7. The air was sharp, still damp from overnight frost, and the sunlight didn't feel warm, just cold and brittle, like it didn't belong to this place. Mason got in the driver's seat. He turned the key. Nothing. No click. No cough. Not even a whimper from the engine. Just silence. He tried again. And again. Still nothing. John popped the hood, checked everything he could, even though none of us were car experts. Battery was fine. No visible damage. No sign of tampering. "You left the dome light on?" Mason asked, grasping for something. "No," John muttered. "Even if I had, it wouldn't kill everything." I pulled out my phone to call for help. No service. I moved around, trying to find a signal. climbed up on a rock. Nothing. Just the empty bars and that stupid emergency calls only warning like a slap in the face. Then I tried the compass app. It spun in a slow, lazy circle. I got out the physical compass from the emergency kit. Same thing. Spinning. Not fast, not erratic, just wrong. Lily pulled out her phone too, but she didn't look at it. She just stared at the reflection on the black screen. I don't think she realized she was doing it. John walked a few hundred yards in one direction with his GPS watch. It beeped at him, flickered, and then reset. Said we were at sea level? We were at 6,000 feet. Maybe it's sunspots, Mason said, almost hopefully. But even he didn't believe it. That's when I noticed the sound again. That low hum, under everything. You didn't hear it exactly, you felt it. In your chest. In your teeth. Like the bass of a speaker 2 rooms away. Like it was always there, and we'd just forgotten to notice until it was too late. We agreed to try to hike out. The dirt road we came in on had to lead somewhere, right? We grabbed what we could carry. Left the tents, most of the gear. Just water, food, and flashlights. We hiked for hours. The sun rose overhead, but it never felt like it moved. The shadows stayed wrong. The wind didn't change. No birds. No animals. No signs of life. Around what felt like mile 5, Mason stopped walking. I remember his exact words. "Does this look familiar to you?" It did. Because we were back at the meadow. Same flat grass. Same dead stillness. Same impression in the earth where Lily had slept. I dropped my bag. My heart felt like it was swelling too big in my chest. "Maybe we took a wrong turn," John said, his voice fraying. "We didn't," I told him. "We walked straight. I marked the trees." I showed him the scratched bark on a pine we'd passed hours ago. It was here now. Right next to camp. And when I turned to say something else, I saw Lily staring at the ground again. Whispering. We should have tied ourselves together. It sounds insane, I know. But looking back, it's the only thing that might have made a difference. After we somehow ended up back at the meadow, something broke in John. Not a scream or a breakdown, just this flatness that crept into his face like someone had flipped off the switch behind his eyes. He started pacing. Muttering to himself. Talking about retracing our steps again. That night, we didn't bother with a fire. No one wanted to move. We sat in a tight circle near the car, which had now become our shelter, our safety net, even though it was just as dead as everything else around us. Our flashlights were growing dim, but none of us wanted to sleep in the tents again. Around dusk, John stood up without a word. "I'll grab more wood," he said. We didn't even answer him. Just nodded. Watched him walk off toward the tree line. That was the last time we saw him. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. No snapping branches. No voice. I called out. So did Mason. Lily didn't move, she just stared into her lap. Eventually we grabbed flashlights and combed the woods, shouting until our throats were raw. Nothing. No tracks. No trail. Just more of the same dense, unbending forest and the oppressive quiet. We spent the night half awake, waiting for John to return. Hoping he'd step into the ring of our dying light and roll his eyes at us like we were overreacting. Instead, sometime past midnight I heard it. His voice. It came from the trees. Soft at first, like it was carried on the wind. "Jake!" I shot up. Lily and Mason both looked at me, they'd heard it too. It was definitely him. He kept calling our names. "Jake! Lily, guys!" But he didn't sound panicked. Or hurt. He sounded confused. Like someone just waking up in the wrong house. I shined my flashlight toward the sound. The beam only reached so far, and beyond it, nothing but endless black. We didn't go into the woods. We knew better now. Some part of us did, anyway. The voice faded eventually. We tried to convince ourselves it was an echo, or maybe a trick of the wind. But the next night, it happened again. This time, closer. And that's when I noticed something even worse. The voice? It never got closer. It only sounded closer. Like the air was being warped to deliver it straight to us. Every night since, we've heard John calling. And every morning, he's still gone. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still see his flashlight bobbing just past the trees. And it never, ever, points toward us. We stopped sleeping in shifts after the third night. It didn't matter anymore. Something about this place, this meadow, it wears you down. Not just your body, but your mind. Your will. The silence becomes pressure, like it's squeezing the thoughts out of your head until you can't tell what's yours and what's being whispered into you. By the time John had been missing for 2 full days, our sense of time started unraveling. Watches stopped syncing. Phones stayed dead. The sun rose and set like it was trying to imitate the concept of time, not actually follow it. Lily started murmuring again in her sleep. This time it was names. First Mason's. Then mine. Then John's. And it wasn't just a whisper. She'd speak whole phrases now, smooth, fluid strings of words in that same warped language from the woods. I tried recording her once, but the file came out as static. Pure white noise with these low pulses buried in it like a heartbeat. That night, I heard my mother's voice. Clear as day. Coming from just outside the tent. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. She said, "Jake, it's okay. You're safe. You can come home now. Just follow my voice." My mother died of a brain aneurysm 2 years ago. I was the one who found her in the kitchen. There is no way that voice should exist. But it was her. Same gentle lilt. Same phrasing. Like she'd always used when I was a kid waking up from a nightmare. I stared at the tent wall, at the silhouette beyond it. I could see her shape, a woman, standing perfectly still, maybe 10 feet away. Her hands at her sides. Her head tilted just slightly like she always did when I was hurt. I almost unzipped the tent. I almost did. But then Mason's hand gripped my wrist hard enough to hurt. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Because he saw it too, and we both knew. It wasn't her. Not really. The next morning, there were footprints in the dirt around the tents. Bare feet. Small. Not John's. Not Lily's. Not mine. Not Mason's. They circled the camp. Then vanished. No trail leading in or out. Just gone. That was when Mason said it. The thing none of us wanted to admit. "They're using us," he whispered. "Studying us. Learning us." He was right. And whatever it is, it doesn't just want to talk. It wants to be us. We tried everything. Different directions. Different times of day. Following the sun. Following the stars. Walking in silence. Walking while talking. Marking trees. Dropping breadcrumbs. Even dragging branches behind us to leave trails. It didn't matter. Every time, every single time, we ended up back at the meadow. Once, we walked for 6 hours, no stops, no turns, just a straight line through the trees, climbing slopes, crossing shallow streams, breaking through underbrush so thick it cut our arms and legs. We passed things that felt real, deer bones. A collapsed hunter's blind. A rusted-out pickup half swallowed by the earth. Mason swore he recognized one rock formation as something we'd seen on the way in, and for a second, we actually got our hopes up. That brief, electric jolt of maybe this is the way out. Then the trees thinned. The sunlight widened. And the grass under our feet turned flat, soft, familiar. Forgotten meadow. Still there. Still waiting. That time Lily collapsed. Just dropped to her knees in the middle of the grass like a puppet with cut strings. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat there. Silent. Broken. Mason punched a tree until his knuckles split. Then he kept walking in circles around the camp, muttering something I couldn't hear. I stared at the sky and asked myself the only question left. Are we dead? No answer came. Just the wind, dry and thin and full of that whispering static that lives just beneath the edge of sound. That night, the forest didn't just call us. It sang. I don't know how else to explain it. The trees didn't move, the branches didn't sway, but there was this sound, rising and falling like breath, like 100 voices humming one endless note. And underneath it, like a subharmonic frequency just low enough to crawl into your skull, I heard John again. And not just him. I heard myself. My own voice calling from the trees. Same tone. Same phrasing. It's okay, Jake. It's just a little farther. Come on. Just a little farther. Lily started mumbling in her sleep again. She laughed once, laughed. And Mason? He stood outside the tent all night, watching the trees. When I finally asked him why he didn't come in, he said something I haven't stopped thinking about. They move when we're not looking, he whispered. Not the trees. The paths. The forest folds like paper. No matter how far we walk. He pointed at the ground beneath his feet. This is the only place that's real. It was the next morning when I found the pit. I wasn't trying to go far, just stepping away from the others, trying to breathe somewhere without hearing the whispers coil around my spine. I walked maybe 50 yards beyond the tree line. Not even far enough to lose sight of camp. But the second I turned back, the meadow was gone. Just gone. I spun around and saw the forest behind me had shifted. The same trees were there, but the shapes between them were different. Like walking through a house you've lived in all your life and suddenly all the doorways are in the wrong places. That's when I noticed the smell. Not rot. Not death. Something older. Like wet bark and rusted iron. Something primal. Like the inside of a cave that hadn't been opened since the Ice Age. Then the ground gave way. Not a collapse. Not a trap. Just soft earth. Like it wanted me to fall in. I landed hard, maybe 6 feet down. The dirt around me wasn't natural, it had layers. Old dry roots. Woven reeds. Animal bones. And in the middle of it all, buried just beneath the surface, was the mask. It looked like wood, but didn't feel like any wood I've ever touched. Smooth but not polished. Heavy. Carved with the same jagged lines as Lily's scar, like a sun cracked in half. Its eyes weren't holes. They were indents. Deep and dark and bottomless. Like staring into the sockets of something that once lived and had seen too much. When I touched it, I felt warmth. Not heat. Warmth. Like skin. Like a heartbeat. I should have dropped it. I should have climbed out and run. Instead, I held it. And I knew. This wasn't lost. This wasn't some old cultural artifact left behind and forgotten. It was left here. On purpose. To wait. And the moment my hands closed around it, I heard a sound like something being drawn from a throat, low and stretched and satisfied. Back at the camp, when I finally returned, Mason and Lily didn't even ask me where I'd been. They just looked at the mask in my hands. And Lily whispered, "You weren't supposed to find it yet." I don't remember falling asleep that night. I remember sitting with the mask in my lap, staring into the fire. I remember Lily quietly humming something that didn't sound like any song I knew. And Mason, pacing in a slow circle around us, dragging a stick behind him, drawing symbols in the dirt over and over like he was tracing something he couldn't not see. But at some point, maybe an hour later, maybe 10, I woke up. Face down. Cold. Dirt packed into my mouth. Sand under my eyelids. Hands scraped raw like I'd been digging. When I sat up, I was 30 feet from camp. The mask was next to me in the grass, perfectly clean, untouched. My heart was racing so hard I thought I was going to black out. I ran back to the tents, stumbling, eyes burning. Mason was asleep sitting upright, but Lily was standing. Just standing. Staring at the trees again. That empty look in her face like someone had left the lights on in a house no one lived in anymore. She didn't look at me. Didn't blink. I went into the tent, trying to pull myself together, and that's when I saw it. Another mark. On my shoulder this time. Not like Lily's, This one was smaller. Curved. Spiraling inward like a whirlpool, carved into the skin so precisely it looked printed. It hurt. Not like a cut or a burn, deeper. Like it was in the muscle. Like it had been earned. And that's when I realized something worse. The mirror in my pack, the little metal one I always bring, was wrong. The reflection twitched. Not just me blinking out of sync, or a light trick. I stared into it, and the face looking back at me smiled. But I hadn't smiled. It wasn't me. Its mouth moved. Just a little. Just enough. And I swear, in that second, I heard a voice, not out loud, but inside, say something I'll never forget. We wear you until you're soft enough to open. Since then, the whispers haven't stopped. They don't wait for night anymore. I hear them in the wind, in the rustle of grass, in the crunch of leaves under my boots. I hear them when I close my eyes. I hear them when I blink. Sometimes, I catch myself whispering back. Lily doesn't talk much anymore. Just sits near the fire, drawing in the dirt with her fingers. Sometimes I think she's trying to warn me. Sometimes I think she's translating. Mason barely eats. Keeps looking at the trees like he expects someone, or something, to walk out any minute now. And me? I don't know how much longer I've got. Because the mask? I started seeing it even when I closed my eyes. There's no more pretending. Whatever's here with us, it's not a force of nature. It's not the forest, or the earth, or some vague spiritual pressure. It's intelligent. It waits. It listens. It knows what scares you. And then it shapes itself around that fear like skin around a bone. The mask is only part of it. A symbol, maybe. A vessel. Or a doorway. But the real horror, the part that's getting harder to say out loud, is that I think it wants me to understand it. And worse? Part of me already does. The dreams aren't just dreams anymore. They're instructions. Last night, I dreamt I was in the pit again, the one where I found the mask, but this time, I wasn't alone. There were others in there with me. Dozens. Naked, silent, faces covered in dirt and moss, moving like animals in a pen. And above us, a figure stood on the edge. Wearing the mask. Wearing my face. It looked down at me and said something in that cracked, guttural tongue, and I understood it. Take one. Or be taken. When I woke up, my hands were filthy again. Fingernails packed with soil. Knees bruised like I'd been crawling. There was a rabbit near the tent. Torn in half. No blood trail. No sign of struggle. Just left there. Mason said nothing. Just stared at it for a long time before burying it. But I could feel what he was thinking. Same as me. It was a message. Someone had to feed it. And if we didn't, it would choose someone on its own. Later, I found another note in my pack. Crumpled. Folded once. My handwriting. It gets easier. Just let go of the name. I don't remember writing it. But I didn't throw it away. Because the whispers aren't just around me anymore, they're inside now. Under the skin. Between the ribs. Rooted deep in the soft parts of thought. And they're not asking for permission anymore. They're demanding. I think Lily knew before the rest of us what was coming. Maybe it was the mark on her neck. Maybe it was the way the forest spoke to her first, soft at first, seductive even. Like it chose her as its mouthpiece. Or maybe she just had the kind of soul that couldn't survive being chipped away piece by piece. Either way, that morning, she was gone. Not just from camp. From this place. We didn't hear her leave. There was no sound. No zip of the tent. No crunch of footsteps. Nothing. Just an empty sleeping bag and a scarf folded neatly on top, like she wanted us to know she meant to go. We searched all morning. Mason even screamed her name until his voice cracked. Then I found her. Not far. She was suspended. That's the only word that fits. From a tree that wasn't there the day before. A massive, gnarled thing with no bark, no leaves, just twisted wood like dried muscle and bone. Lily hung from one of its limbs. But there was no rope. No cord. Nothing tying her. Just hanging. Like gravity had forgotten her. Her eyes were open. And she was smiling. Not wide. Not joyful. That other kind of smile. The one that people wear in war zones, when the shelling stops and they realize they're still breathing but not really alive anymore. Mason dropped to his knees. I didn't try to stop him. We cut her down, or tried to. She floated to the ground without resistance. No bruising around the neck. No cause of death we could see. But her hands, they were burned. Deep, blackened lines running across the palms, like she tried to hold something far too hot for far too long. Mason carried her back to camp without a word. We laid her in one of the tents. Zipped it shut. We didn't talk about it. There was nothing to say. That night, the meadow was different. The grass glowed faintly, like it had fed. And in the dark, over the rustle of wind through the empty trees, I heard Lily's voice. From beneath the ground. Soft. Gentle. Calling my name. There's a weight that settles in when you stop pretending you'll get out. I don't know how many days it's been now. We don't track time anymore. The sun rises and sets like a coin flipping in the sky. It's not real. Nothing is. Mason barely speaks. He just sharpens sticks now. Not for defense. There's nothing to defend against. I think it's just something his hands can do to keep from shaking. Me? I try to stay awake. I try. But it's getting harder. Because the thing is, when you do fall asleep, you don't stay where you are. The first time it happened, I woke up face down in the dirt, coughing, choking. My mouth packed with soil like someone had buried me alive. My lips were split. My eyes full of grit. Sand clung to the inside of my eyelids like glass dust. My legs ached. My calves were cramping. Like I'd walked miles. But I had no memory of getting up. Mason found me lying at the base of the same twisted tree where we found Lily. I'd carved something into the trunk. 3 circles. One inside the other. No tools. Just my fingers. The bark torn away by hand. My nails were broken. My fingertips raw. The next time, I woke up with a mouthful of hair. My own. A clump torn from the back of my head. Still clenched in my fist when I opened my eyes. Whatever's inside this place, it doesn't possess you. That would be too obvious. Too dramatic. It leaks into you. Like fog under a door. Like mold in the walls. You wake up and find dirt between your teeth and think, maybe I was sleepwalking. You wake up and there's blood under your nails and think, maybe I scratched myself in a dream. You tell yourself things. You have to. Because the alternative is knowing that while your body sleeps, someone else wears it. And they're walking it towards something. They're preparing it. Mason tied himself to a tree last night. Wrapped a length of paracord around his waist and knotted it until his hands bled. I asked if he thought it would stop them. He just looked at me, eyes hollow, and said, "It's not to stop them. It's so I know where I went." I didn't sleep at all. But when I woke up this morning, my boots were wet. And there were footprints outside the tent. Bare. Human. Deep. They led away from the meadow. Then circled back. Over and over. I don't even remember unzipping the bag. I just reached in for the water purifier and found it there, folded neatly between my spare shirt and the last half-eaten protein bar. A piece of notebook paper, yellowed at the edges, damp like it had been rained on days ago. My handwriting. No question. Same shaky D, same looped F, same smudged half-word at the edge where I always forget to finish a sentence. Don't be afraid, you're part of their tribe now. You're the new shaman. I read it 3 times. Then again, aloud. Mason didn't react. He was sitting with his back to the fire, staring into the trees like they might start whispering instructions again. His face was thinner now. His lips cracked. Skin gray, like the forest had bled the color from him. I don't know when the word shaman stopped sounding like a joke. It doesn't feel noble. Or powerful. Or mystical. It feels wrong. Like being handed the controls of something ancient, Something that's been waiting for someone dumb enough, or broken enough, to say yes. And here's the truth: I am broken. I can't tell anymore if I'm doing things or just remembering them after. Sometimes I look at my hands and they don't feel like mine. Like I'm piloting a suit made of meat and regret. I dream in languages I don't understand, but wake up knowing their meanings. I see shapes in the firelight, and I know what they want before they move. Yesterday, I found stones arranged in a ring by the car. Inside it, the mask? Again. I buried that thing. Twice. It comes back. And I can't stop touching it. When I hold it, the hum in the ground gets louder, not in my ears, in my bones. And the earth beneath the meadow pulses like a second heartbeat. Slow. Heavy. Ancient. Mason doesn't ask about the note. Maybe he found one too. Maybe he said something worse. That night, we sat by the fire again, and he said something strange. Softly. Like he just remembered. They didn't leave this place, he said. They just shifted. Like smoke and stone. Still here, just not where we can see. Then he looked at me, really looked, and said, "They picked you because you don't believe you matter." And I didn't deny it. Because he was right. And something in the dark agreed. I don't even remember unzipping the bag. I just reached in for the water purifier and found it there, folded neatly between my spare shirt and the last half-eaten protein bar. A piece of notebook paper, yellowed at the edges, damp like it had been rained on days ago. My handwriting. No question. Same shaky D, same looped F, same smudged half-word at the edge where I always forget to finish a sentence. Don't be afraid, you're part of their tribe now. You're the new shaman. I read it 3 times. Then again, aloud. Mason didn't react. He was sitting with his back to the fire, staring into the trees like they might start whispering instructions again. His face was thinner now. His lips cracked. Skin gray, like the forest had bled the color from him. I don't know when the word shaman stopped sounding like a joke. It doesn't feel noble. Or powerful. Or mystical. It feels wrong. Like being handed the controls of something ancient. Something that's been waiting for someone dumb enough, or broken enough, to say yes. And here's the truth: I am broken. I can't tell anymore if I'm doing things or just remembering them after. Sometimes I look at my hands and they don't feel like mine. Like I'm piloting a suit made of meat and regret. I dream in languages I don't understand, but wake up knowing their meanings. I see shapes in the firelight, and I know what they want before they move. Yesterday, I found stones arranged in a ring by the car. Inside it, the mask? Again. I buried that thing. Twice. It comes back. And I can't stop touching it. When I hold it, the hum in the ground gets louder, not in my ears, in my bones. And the earth beneath the meadow pulses like a second heartbeat. Slow. Heavy. Ancient. Mason doesn't ask about the note. Maybe he found one too. Maybe he said something worse. That night, we sat by the fire again, and he said something strange. Softly. Like he just remembered. They didn't leave this place, he said. They just shifted. Like smoke and stone. Still here, just not where we can see. Then he looked at me, really looked, and said, "They picked you because you don't believe you matter." And I didn't deny it. Because he was right. And something in the dark agreed.